Joining me now is Ryan Young, who is a staff writer over at Yahoo, covers all kinds of things, the NFL, which is what we're going to touch on today. But I know that you follow golf pretty closely as well, too, Ryan. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the American domination at the Ryder Cup. I mean, what was your takeaway from the weekend?
They looked really good from like the very beginning. They were ready to go, ready to get the cup back. And that was really cool to see because, there was all of these, I don't want to say doubts coming into it, but there was some hesitation, some storyline. You don't really know how it's going to shake out. And they were just up, they had their largest lead in like 47 years after the first day. And then they could kind of cruise the rest of the way through, which was really cool to see.
What did we learn anything different about Bryson DeChambeau? I mean, I'm so intrigued by him, and so much has been made about his game, the way that he is kind of doing things his own way. I know he's a polarizing figure within the sport. All that's kind of been covered. But with some of the stuff that he was able to do this past weekend, I mean, did you learn anything new about him that you didn't already know?
That's just Bryson being Bryson. Like, he's been different for so long doing his own thing. And it's cool because he can just step up in these big moments and not let, fans or any of the other storylines, his thing with Brooks, whatever that is, take it however you want. It doesn't seem to get to him in some of these big moments like this. And he just kind of stepped up and he's still got it. He's not letting that, all these external storylines, these things get to him at times like this.
What do you think is the reason behind his mental toughness and fortitude and kind of being able to put all that stuff to the side, where in the past I feel like maybe, that hasn't been the case as much?
I think he's realized that he's needed to have that and needed to grow that because all of these, external storylines like his feud with Brooks and, his COVID stuff and just all of these fans chirping at him, he's realized that in order to still be the player that he is, in order to succeed, like he knows he can, he has to just be able to block that out and stay tough. And I think that switch has kind of happened in the last few months where he's realized that that's something he can do if he just tunes it out.
What do you think about Rory McIlroy's weekend in totality? It
was tough because, he got benched for that very first time, right? He's always been a staple for the European team. He's one of the best golfers in the world, and he's kind of struggling right now. It was nice to see him, push through, and he still seemed to be in good spirits about it. And, this isn't the end for him for sure, but it was kind of a tough weekend for him.
Why do you think he's going through some of the stuff that he's going through?
Golf's kind of a game that way, right? Where, you can get up and then you can fall down. It's very roller coastery. And there can sometimes be like no reason behind it at all, right? Something just off with your game, you get into kind of a rut. And it can be tough to pull yourself out, especially during something like the Ryder Cup when you're, not on your home turf, you're in Wisconsin. It's all USA everywhere, right? They have all the momentum. So it can be a really tough spot to pull yourself out of, there.
Just having been at the Ryder Cup in the past as a fan, I think it's one of the best sporting events in sports, quite honestly. But I know that, American fan bases, and especially right now in this post-pandemic world where, fans have seemingly forgotten how to attend sporting events, whether it be the NFL or college football or you name it. It's fans gone wild, basically. Are you okay with the way that American golf fans handle the environment at the Ryder Cup? I mean, it was pretty surreal to just see everybody packed so tightly together for, the first time in however long. But, just the way that the American fan base gets up for the Ryder Cup. What's your take on that?
That's kind of the best part of the Ryder Cup, right? Because you don't see that in golf very often. Everybody's quiet and respectful most of the time, here and there it changes. But for the most part, golf's a very calm, relaxed sport. And every time the Ryder Cup comes around, these fans just go crazy for it. It's kind of their one opportunity in golf to just go all out and, have that fun, especially after the year and a half off that we've had where people can't go or you can't attend the normal way. It's really cool to see. And as long as they're, not crossing the line too far, like we've seen the NBA a couple of times when they first came back, I think it's totally fine. And that's really what makes the Ryder Cup, the Ryder Cup. It's the best part of it.
Do you remember the point at which the Ryder Cup kind of became the golf event where golf fans could not forget the etiquette, but as you say, like loosen up and almost act like a bit of a different fan base because the sport is normally, so polished, a little bit buttoned up. You think about the Masters, when did that sort of happen? That American golf fans said, like, I'm going to go to the Ryder Cup and go crazy.
I think it's been like the last maybe 3 or 4 times that it's been over here in the United States where Americans kind of realized that they can, like, there aren't the same golf rules, anymore. And it took a long time for, I think, that to just be a thing and to be accepted. Because, like you said, golf is just such a different sport for fans. But it's really kind of transformed. And this was kind of almost like a peak for fans to see them go. And I think now, 3 or 4 times that we've had it here, especially after the break off, they realize that they can do all these things. And it's kind of turned into, like you said, one of the best events in sports in general.
Yeah, it's a bucket list item for sure. All right, so let's kind of segue over to the NFL now. I know that that's where you spent a lot of time writing for Yahoo. Biggest takeaway maybe for a lot of people in week 3 was just the performance by the Chargers. I mean, what was your kind of takeaway from week 3 from the weekend? Were you impressed by them, surprised by them?
I was really impressed by the Chargers, and I think a lot of that has to do with Justin Herbert. I think he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL in general, and even against a team like the Chiefs, who, they're a championship caliber team, right? They have Patrick Mahomes. They're such a great defense, just top to bottom. They're a very good team, and he showed up in Kansas City and was able to do all that. And I think that was really impressive to see. And I think that they're a team that they might not quite be all the way there yet, but they have what it takes to, potentially get there, especially with him at the helm if he keeps progressing like he is.
Watching the Patriots game and watching them play New Orleans, I thought that they were going to get over the 500 mark. I did not see that coming. I mean, do you see Jameis Winston as a quarterback that is going to ultimately find this consistency? Because he's been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, but, pretty clean performance on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, he looks solid. And I think a big thing for the Saints was that they had a lot of their coaches back from the week before when they had that COVID outbreak, which I think was their slip. And they're kind of back into their rhythm and he can settle in. He doesn't have, as much pressure anymore. And he finally gets like a true chance to be a starting quarterback in a system that's seeming to work for him. So it was good to see him, show up and able to lead the Saints to a pretty dominant win.
There's been a lot of speculation about Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Is he happy there? Is he trying to tank the season on purpose? I mean, the rumor mill has kind of run the gamut from start to finish, but a pretty good game last night. How good do you think the Packers are this season?
As long as he's playing that way, they can be a very, very good team in the league. Everybody saw his week 1 performance. He was coming off of a wild offseason for him where it seemed like football wasn't his priority, and he struggled that first game, and everybody panicked, right? Everybody was worried about him, thinking the Packers were done. He was done. And these last 2 weeks, he's looked really, really good. And, that 37-second drive that he had at the end of the game, he looked perfect. He looked like the MVP quarterback that we know he can be. So as long as we have that from him, the Packers can, go as far as they want.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that people have said like he's lost his feel for the game or what have you. I mean, you see him chewing out rookies and managing the clock, like you said, driving the way that we've kind of grown accustomed to him doing things. Is there any doubt in your mind that he is not exactly where he wants to be doing exactly what he wants to be doing?
That first week, yeah, I had a ton of doubt about him because that was an Aaron Rodgers that we've never seen before. But he seemed to take all of the air out of that conversation, these last 2 weeks, right? So now he looks exactly where he wants to be. He's comfortable. He's in a system that he's pretty much run and created and owned. And I think as long as they can, keep that relationship fine throughout the year, nothing really breaks down on him, I think he's fine and he can then reevaluate whatever he wants to reevaluate at the end of the year.
Which other teams kind of caught your eye over the weekend?
The Rams looked really, really good. And I think a lot of that has to do with Matthew Stafford, right? One of my friends has been talking about him for years and saying that he's something like, he'll be like the worst Hall of Fame quarterback to ever make it in because he just hasn't ever gotten these opportunities to do well. He's been stuck in the Lions. They haven't been very good. Now he's with a very good team and he's just looking unstoppable. He's looking like an MVP caliber quarterback. And he did that against, a Tom Brady team. And that Bucs team is very good. And he and the Rams just looked unstoppable.
Was that surprising for you, or did you kind of see that coming in the preseason that, hey, this is a pretty stacked roster, a pretty talented team?
I think we could see it, but I think this week really proved that, okay, that's a real storyline. That's a real thing that can happen for the Rams because they've had these pieces there. And Jared Goff was a fine quarterback. They were a good team before Matthew Stafford came in, but now we can see that he's really taken them to the next level. So I think that's something to see how he can carry on and finish out the year. But I think, he's really upgraded that offense and team for him.
All right. Awesome. Ryan Young, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.